if you can build data centers on photonics instead of electronics, you can save factors of thousands on energy consumption.
Good morning, IPX. We are here again at the IPX studios, all about disruptive technologies. We try and find fascinating technology. We try and find fascinating people to tell you about how they're changing the world. This morning, I don't often say this because there aren't many of these, but I might actually have a legend on our show. He's going to go all humble and suggest that he's not, which is fine. But Cees Links from a company called SuperLight Photonics, who I'm sure, if you know anything about photonics, you will have seen their news about being a startup. But Cees does have a background, which I'm going to allow him to give us to explain the place that he's taken in our lives, and then why that's relevant to the world of photonics. So I'd like him to introduce to the world of photonics, why it's relevant in today's industry, and what they're doing at their business. So that very grand entry, which I think is absolutely poignant. So Cees, tell us a little bit about yourself, your past, and then where it's led to how we are here today.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, my past I can be short about. I was in the lucky position of being allowed to lead a team to make Wi-Fi into a worldwide standard, being able to sell it to Apple and then to IBM and to many other companies. And one of our main claims to fame is that we were able to make Wi-Fi into a worldwide standard. So whatever country you go to, you turn on your laptop or your cell phone and you can connect to the Wi-Fi network. And that required a lot of standardization worldwide. And I was in the lucky position of leading the team to do so and contributing a little bit myself as well. I've been in data communication business, in wireless data communication business, a larger part of my life. But more recently, I run into a photonics company. And well, in a way, photonics is a sort of next generation electronics. Now, photonics will not be built on air. It will be built on top of electronics, but photonics will be able to bring electronics a stage further. And you may have heard of Moore's law and Moore's law running out of steam. Well, with photonics, the whole electronics industry can be reinvigorated, can be strengthened again, can take another step up. And if we claim that a lot of economic wealth have been created over the last 30 years by the growth of the electronic industries, I would say that momentum is not losing steam, but it will be picked up by photonics. And in all fairness, I have to say, it is also being picked up at the software side with artificial intelligence. So it's almost like a branching that you see. You see artificial intelligence strengthening the use of electronics, and you see photonics, strengthening the momentum of electronics that it already had today. So my prediction is that disruptions will not come to an end soon. So a lot of good news for your show, because you will not run out of steam either in terms of subjects and opportunities.
Good, excellent. So that's a very good introduction. I had a silly line about how you caused me so much pain with my children over the 20 years that I've been privileged enough to have children, with the shout of the Wi-Fi's not working and they can't download their YouTube and they can't play their games. And I should have always been thinking of you at that point as I bit my lip. But anyway, there you go.
I'll take it from many angles.
So that's very interesting, because we've been talking a lot in the last 3 months or so about the physical parameters of Moore's law, how that affects the world of semiconductors. Quite a few people predicting that we are actually coming to a point where that's not going to be viable. Well, that's been put to test in the whole of my world and my life in electronics, which is actually is over 30 years. So that's an interesting point. very interesting, of course, that you've brought into the subject of AI, which we don't need to discuss today, but how AI will facilitate that, and the amount of data moving backwards and forwards will help the semiconductor business move forward. But then you bring in this world of photonics.
Right.
And predict that, in that bridge in the road with Moore's law, there's the potential for AI, and then there's the potential for photonics. So can you help me understand, because photonics is not a brand new technology. We've had photonics for best part of, you tell me better, but at least 10 years.
I mean, I would say 30, 40 years, but I would even say longer.
But viably and commercially, it's being used for around about that time period.
It's slow, and the reason it's slow is because there are, I would say, two fundamental differences between photonics and electronics. There is a big advantage and there is a big disadvantage. The big advantage is that photons are, compared to electrons, very light. So they use way less energy to move around. So, and in particular, the limitations of electronics in terms of energy and energy consumption. Data centers. I mean, they're burning energy like no tomorrows. If you can build data centers on photonics instead of electronics, you can save factors of thousands on energy consumption. So that's the big advantage of photons versus electrons. But why are we not using photons today? Photons have a big disadvantage. Photons have no charge. Electrons, we all know, are negatively charged, although that was just a random choice. It could have been, you could have said they're positively charged if you turn everything around. But electrons are charged. Electrons, they go from one direction to another direction. Photons, light, goes everywhere. And that is a big disadvantage because controlling light turns out to be way more complex. Getting light from place 1 to place B is a tough job. It's a tough material job. It's a tough process job. It's a tough management job. But on the other hand, let's be positive. If you have fiber to the home, you basically get a bunch of photons shot from a data center to your house, and basically you're counting photons. If there's a photon coming in, it's a 1. If it's not coming in, it's a 0. So in a way, with photons, you can do the same as what you can do with electrons, but because they have no charge, they fly all directions. They are very, very obnoxious. Electrons have no choice. They go away from minus and they go to plus because they are minus themselves. But photons, in a way, you have to shoot them and you have to hope that they arrive and don't get astray in the meantime somewhere. So that's the big disadvantage of photons. But the advantage, using so much or using so less energy is the big advantage. And now it's bringing the controls back on photons that we are used in electrons. That's the simplest way I can explain why photonics has the future here.
So you really are describing not just an evolution of something, you're actually describing a revolution of something.
Yeah, this is a clear disruption. And one of the key factors, of course, is, the whole world is dominated by electrons. So how do you transfer the world from electrons to photons? With other words, if an electron arrives, a photon should be shot. And if an electron is not arriving, a photon should be kind of held back. So with the new photonics, we have to solve two problems. We don't only have to solve the problems of the photonics world itself, the fact that they have no charge, but we also have to build that world on the existing world of the electronics. Nobody is going to throw his phone away because now I have a photonics phone. No, you wanna connect the photonics world to the electronics world. So we have now two problems to solve, and that is one of the reasons why it's not trivial. It's not easy, And then it also pulls in a whole other world. We know how electrons move through metals, but now how do we control photons moving through fibers? Yeah, and now you get the whole fiber industry, and you get the industry of what materials should be fibers made of. You're kind of pulling up a complete new world of scientists, of physicists, of electronic engineers with appetite for photonics. It is a new world, but it's a new world with a little bit less of noise, I would say. We leave the noise to the AI people; they can make a lot of noise. But underneath, there is a real, very quiet revolution going on, and that is that
Right.
electronics can be made so much more efficient with photonics.
So, are you describing there? Because ended up going in a direction that I didn't expect this morning, but that's my job to go with you.
This is the underlying principle.
Yeah, you're the star, not me. So, what you're describing there is an integration of something that we've had for a long time, but it's going to layer itself on top of an existing infrastructure,
exactly,
which is the one that we have today. And it's going to then, in the same way, because we talked about Moore's law, I at least introduced the concept of Moore's law, and we talked about how AI is going to help Moore's law, maybe not Moore's law, but the problem that Moore's law has, and how AI is going to help that because of the speed that it will move data around. That's sitting on top of the existing technology that we have today. You're describing a world where photonics is going to do the same thing. It's going to sit on top of the existing infrastructure,
exactly,
and then give great opportunity for the movement of data or whatever it is you're trying to move in a quicker, more efficient way. So if you like, splicing into the electronics world that we have today. So let me just ask you, obviously that's going to be, it could either be a very fast application, a very fast change, or it'll be examples where it sits comfortably. So where do you see, just as a start, where do you see, we're at this crossroads where you make decisions, where I've got to solve a problem. So will photonics help me? Where do you first see photonics doing that, sitting on top of the electronics world and help start solving the problem that they are facing today?
Yeah. Well, what you see in the first place is, if you look at Datacom, you already, in essence, get a sneak preview with your fiber to the home.
Yeah.
That is already, developing momentum, and I would expect that copper to the home, say cable, will run out of steam because of the advantages of fiber. Electronics.
I think it already has. I think it already has in reality.
It already has, but now
Yeah.
it will propagate everywhere. It will propagate to also the cables in your house. It will propagate to the cables into the data centers. It will propagate into the connection in between chips and in chips themselves. Shooting around photons is way faster, way more efficient, generates less heat. So all in all, it's all a plus. But as I mentioned, photons are difficult to control. So it needs a lot of work and a lot of research to get these photons better under control. There is another use of light, and it's very interesting to see that as an angle for photonics as well, and as a future path of convergence with electronics. But let's just start with a good old-fashioned light bulb. We all are used to light bulbs, and we all are used to light migrating to LEDs. And to LED light. And we also know that LED light has a special characteristic. It is one color. Now you can mix multiple LEDs into getting multicolors, or you get white light. If you do red, green, and blue, you can get white light. That is the world of photonics and light. And what is happening now is that the quality of light is improving, and helps us to create more insight, more sight on the physical world. And let me give some example. The first simple example is if you go to the dentist, you get a light on your face, and with better light, the dentist can see better. We also notice this ourselves when we get older, and we can't read well enough. We surprisingly notice if we get better light, we can read better. So better light gives us more details, more what we say with better light, more insight, more insight. So you can think about it as if you throw light at the subject, and now I'm talking, for instance, about chromatography, where you see spectral lines. You can see what kind of substances there are. If you go through security at an airport, if all kind of tests are being done, it's all done with light, where um, in this type of industrial environments, one tries to determine whether there is contamination, whether there's pollution, whether there are illegal substances. It can all be done with light because material, they present themselves with different forms of light if you put strong enough light, say laser light, on top of it. Now, the last 20, 30 years, lasers have traditionally been monochrome, one color. And one color has a lot of advantages. If you know what color you have and what you're looking for, then everything is very contained and stable. But we all know, when we moved from black and white TV to color TV, that color is so much richer in providing you information than black and white TV. I mean, you could have been satisfied with black and white TV for 20 years and wonder, why would I need color TV? And then somebody shows you a color TV and you never want to go back to black and white TV. That's how rich light, color light is. But lasers were monochrome, and you can only, mess around with multiple lasers to get something of a mixture of light. What Haider Zia, the CTO of SuperLight Photonics, has invented during his postdoc at the Twente University is how to create from a monochrome light source a full color, a wideband light source. Now, let's avoid going into the statistics into the technical details, but just imagine that you shine with a monochrome light on a photonic IC, and that photonic IC builds a wide spectrum of a full set of colors out of that monochrome light. Now, it was a holy grail 10, 15 years ago, how to make full color light. Because in all kind of applications, um, people were thinking about monochrome, nice, but we want to go around a little bit with that monochrome, because if we can give a little bit of color, we can see a little bit of depth. And scanning lasers and tunable lasers were invented. But what we realize now is that scanning lasers and tunable lasers, they are all kludges, because what you really want is you want a wideband laser that gives you a full color picture. So think about a doctor and an endoscopy, where a doctor, is trying to is looking for cancer in a bladder, in a colon, in lungs. He is today looking with a monochrome laser, say a black and white laser.
Like, I mean, it's ridiculous, but like an X-ray, which
Yeah,
is purely just
exactly.
light and shade, light and
It's
shade.
shade. Yeah, it's like a red lamp
Yeah,
in a dark room, and everything is red. Yeah, and you get
yeah,
you get you
yeah.
get 50 shades of red with red lamp in a dark room. So if you can shine with the endoscope a full spectrum, you can see depth, like you can see depth on a color TV way better than on a black and white TV. And
Yeah.
that is the disruption that the company is now bringing to market. And of course, you see, and I see a lot of parallels in the world of Wi-Fi. In the world of Wi-Fi, people said, "Well, we have cables. Why do we need wireless?" So
Yeah.
people say now today, well, we have tuning lasers and scanning lasers. We can wiggle a little bit around the red and see a little bit of depth. You say, well, but what about if you see the whole spectrum and you see all the colors? Wouldn't you be
Yeah.
way more happier? And then we get some grumpy reactions that we need to overcome because we believe that the future is color, and the future is not 50 shades of red or 50 shades of green or 50 shades of whatever. The
Oh, go say grey. Go on, just for
the
the sake of
the
it.
the future is very colorful, but people need
Yeah.
to get their
Yeah.
mind around it, that you can watch color TV instead of
Yeah.
black and white TV. So that is the disruptiveness, and the company exists for half a year. The company spun this technology out of the university, out of Twente University here in Enschede, and is bringing this to market now. The interesting part, of course, is technology is one, but a feasible, robust, usable product that fits an application is a complete other story, and that's
Yeah.
that's what we as a company
So
are building on right now.
so let's just finish off, because you just get. I mean, this has been a dream interview for me, because I think I only asked one question. I think that was it. That's all I needed to do. and we no one will know, but because obviously we started chatting before we started the interview, and I was very open with the fact that the world of photonics was a complete mystery to me. I very rarely prepare for these interviews because that's not my job to know everything about everything. But I did try and go and work out photonics, and it was a complete mystery to me, even giving it some research. So all I've had to do with you rather marvellously this morning is just press play. And you've given me this absolutely, our community, obviously our community, this absolutely brilliant introduction to where it's come from, where it's going, and what the difference is. Absolutely, and if I can understand that, I know that's going to be a brilliant introduction for our community who are looking for disruptive things and changing the world. So just as a finishing off, because you have actually really well described that. Just give me, I think, the whole idea of having one-dimensional light coming from a laser, and you describe how they've solved some of the problems by having slight differences in or using red to see some differences. Yeah. All of a sudden, using the cliche, we'll throw some colour onto the situation. Yeah. Explain to me, because I think it's obvious, but just explain to me some real world examples. Like food analysis or medical, or real world analysis where you can throw laser light at a situation, and how we describe it. We talked about how wouldn't it be better if you didn't just see an X-ray in black and white? What if you could see depth, and you could by using colour? So where do you see? Because at the start of the interview, we knew that you'd have to have certain breach points that enabled people to explore and give real world value with doing this. So where do you see, though, just give me some examples, 2 will do just fine, of where you see the world changing, because you can go from this monochrome world, for want of a better phrase, because that's, you talked about TV, and then when you then get feedback that is colour.
Yeah. Well, and I gave already, the doctor with the endoscope, doing an internal research and being able to see in color, whether there are anomalies in an organ. But another clean example is, if you do quality inspection. If you do quality inspection, like for instance on an airplane, they are looking for very small tears, for wear and tear that is starting to show. If you with a monochrome laser would be looking at something like that, you just see differences in black and gray. If you can see it in color, you can do quality inspection way more in depth because you see with colors over a way wider spectrum whether there's an anomaly in a surface, say in a wing of an airplane. Another example is
Well, hang on. That's. We've just been faced with a whole fleet of aeroplanes being taken out of the air because of a few bolts.
exactly.
However trivial that sounds, lives were lost and lives were risked.
Exactly.
So what you're saying is that this is potentially an absolute game changer for that kind of environment, that kind of analysis, that kind of safety check.
Exactly.
I mean, that is an absolute
It can be done
disruptive game changer.
It can be done way faster, and it can be done way better. So if things can be done faster and better, the barrier of doing it gets significantly lowered. So you can do it more often. You can do it from greater distance. So there are all kind of advantages with say a full color laser compared to a black and white laser.
Right. So I think that you were right. You said maybe it was a poor question for me about examples.
No, I have another example for you.
Oh, go on then. Yes, please.
Quality of food, whether food has a certain maturity or whether it's over mature. With better light, you can see that. What happens is that when you talk about an apple, when an apple is not ripe yet, or when an apple is overripe, it gives a different spectrum. And a different spectrum you can see with a full color laser light. So you can way better control the quality of food, and you don't have to throw food away if you can better determine what the state of the life of food is and how long it can still be sold, as an example. So food quality and food management is also possible with wideband lasers that see a way wider spectrum. Currently, it's done with tunable lasers, right? But if you have a wideband laser, you have everything in one go.
Yeah. So it's very interesting because we've been talking a lot at ipX about the revolution of AI and how that is changing, with sensors out on the edge and how data's coming in and how that's going to completely change the amount of data that people are going to be able to analyze, and that revolution hasn't even started. But what you're describing is then there's a whole new great big set of data that you're potentially going to be able to bring in. Correct. From the endpoint, which then, if you combine that with the AI revolution at the same time, you've just got a world that looks in 10 years' time.
You are connecting the dots, and that is exactly. I mean, AI in itself, how does AI work on a physical object? How does AI operate the physical world? Well, the only way that AI can interrelate with the physical world is it needs to see something, and see you do with light, and light is photons. So here is where photonics approaches AI from the other angle, where it essentially delivers the data that AI would be looking for to be collected.
Yes. Very interesting. So this is your company is SuperLight Photonics. From the Netherlands. This is very early, so when can we expect that this to be something that people can not I don't want to use a play, but when do we get to the point that it reaches a tipping point where it won't be mainstream for a while, but a point where our community can think of, right, I've got to start thinking about photonics. I've got to start thinking about what that means in the applications that I'm applying. So you've applied some industrial applications, medical examples, safety examples. I think you could probably just go on, and we could have a whole.
Agriculture.
We could keep going for a very, very long while about where this technology can potentially change the world. Exactly. When do you see that and your business being at a point where mainstream technology companies can start evaluating it and getting hold of it and seeing how it can change their applications?
Yeah. We have released our first product in November. We are selling that now. We expect to be mainstream in the coming 2 years. In the coming 2 years, people will have put a place for wideband lasers in their thinking. And then in our view, it will start chipping away at the usage of tunable lasers and scanning lasers, because you can do everything so way faster. I mean, think about an eye operation with laser surgery. One of the big challenges is how to mobilize an eye, because with a scanning laser, you need to move over the whole eye surface and do a diagnostics investigation. But if you have a wideband laser and you can look with color, you kind of reduce the time that the eye needs to be immobilized from, say a minute to a fraction of a second. So I mean, these things need to be, they need to land in the industry, that now we have a different form of light, that things can be done way more efficient and way better. And that takes, in my experience, a few years. A mindset needs to be changed. The people say, wow, is that possible? Yeah. Now I can do something that I never thought would be possible before. And that my experience is that takes a few years. That needs to land with people.
Yeah. Well, I feel this has been, as I said, I wasn't sure where we were going to go with this conversation, because I needed you to explain it to me. And I'm sure I'm not alone with that, actually, when we open this interview up to our community. But you have experience of understanding how you take disruptive technology and apply it to a world that's quite happy doing what it's doing, thinks that's black and white TV, copper for communications, and all of a sudden now you're saying, hang on a minute, we can change how we use light to completely change how we analyze the outside world and use it to our advantage. Exactly. And then combining that with the power of AI, wow, you go into a whole new realm you really do go into a whole new realm of how human beings interact with the outside world, analyze the outside world, and understand what's going on. So this has been a great pleasure to chat with you this morning.
Excellent summary.
And
excellent summary.
Thank you for your time. And we look forward. I think if you can put up with me again at some point, we would like to go on your journey with you and see how you're bringing this to market and how you're beginning to change the world. So thank you very much.
Very welcome. Thank you.
Good luck.
Where my engineers at?